thou that sleepest, arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Edwards and Mr. Anderson. I'm hearing feedback, Mr. Anderson. Grab a cup of coffee and
All right, let's try that.
No sound, no sound.
Let's try that. Silence is golden, but not on radio. Thank you, Don. Is that any better, folks? I didn't think that would work.
Why is there no sound?
Okay, are we getting sound now, folks? I hope. And you're on. Yep, it was my mute. I didn't think that would work. So, I just talk about how I talked earlier about the number of cases was going to rise because the testing has improved. And I predicted this a long time ago. The people are running around with this, they just haven't been tested. And they've gotten over it. And that we are just overreacting to all this insanity. We've been had, folks. And the shame of it is that most Americans are clamoring for more of it. And shaming those who have sense enough to ask for the truth. Bang. If you're wearing a mask, then are we to assume that you have the virus and are out and about? If you're wearing a mask, why are you wearing a mask? You think you have the virus? Then keep your rear end in the house. Don't go out and expose everyone else, because the masks don't work that well anyway. I have a question for you. How many?
Oh, quiz time.
Yep. How many of you have ever gone out in public when you had a cough or a sniffle? In your entire lifetime, have you ever done that? Of course you have. Multiple times. You ever gone into work feeling under the weather? Yeah, right? When the flu season was in and you had it, did you wear a mask then? If I were symptomatic, easy for me to say, of anything, symptomatic of anything, I would, of course, take precautions. But what is happening in America today is quite a different story. Instead of throwing stones and shaming, might I humbly suggest we start trusting in God as versus deep state politicians? Look at what you're doing. This is just absolutely incredible. I had an email from a friend this week. It starts out, my family would not be vaccinated from COVID. It takes 10 plus years of research to get an effective vaccine and know the potential side effects. Yet, this started in January, February, March of this year? And we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year, the first of next year? Really? I mean, really? For all my friends defending the mask, I won't unfriend you, no matter how hard you try to push your views down my throat. When you ask why, well, it's just a mask. It's just a mask can turn into it's just a vaccine, or we just have to lose a few businesses very quickly. And we will. You can bet your bottom dollar on that, and we have. Think about this. In less than 6 months, our government has successfully divided the country into obedient mask wearers versus selfish people that refuse to wear masks. It's just a mask, you guys. It's for the greater good. Ask yourself, perhaps in a Teutonic language, that would be German. Where have we heard this phrase before? It's just. In less than half a year, our government has dictated what events are acceptable versus unacceptable to attend. Riots are okay. Family funerals are not. Do you see the insanity, the absolute insanity that we're going through right now? Standing in graduation line is a safety hazard, but feel free to line up at Walmart or Lowe's. But it's just a mask and safety precaution, you guys. In less than 6 months, our government successfully facilitated the closing of family-owned businesses while granting authority to large corporations that they have invested dollars in. It's just a mask and safety precautions we're here. You guys, come on. Oh, and here's the measly $1,200 we stole from you in the first place. Enjoy. By the way, don't be surprised if there isn't another attempt to give more of your money back, say in October. That's a month just before the first Tuesday in November. I wonder if we're going to be able to vote in person. No, I'm not going to wonder. We're not going to be able to vote in person in November. That ain't happening. And some people wait because they know some people wait to the last minute. Those people, generally conservatives, will wait to the last minute, while you have the left out there right now registering, and they will be contacting those folks and have their votes. Look what happened in the last election a year ago, in November. The low turnout. Why? Same thing's going to happen. They're counting on that. It's got to be done electronically. Got to be done slow, mail. In less than 6 months, our government was able to successfully sway the population into believing that a cashless society, is a good thing in the name of a boogeyman virus. It's just a mask and heightened safety precaution, you say. In less than 6 months, our government demonstrated how easily people assimilate to guidelines that have little scientific premise whatsoever, using fear. What was up with all that toilet paper and sanitary wipes, by the way? It's just a mask.
That's what's happening with coins now.
And 6-foot social distancing, you guys. In less than 5 months, our government has successfully instilled fear in a majority of the population in America while dividing families and separating neighbors. Have you noticed? But citizens are not afraid of the people in power who are responsible for the removal of their freedoms. It's interesting, isn't it? Instead, they're fearful of their neighbors, critical of their neighbors, critical of family members. You can't have human touch. And be careful of the air. There are thousands of viruses that could affect the population, but these viruses do not matter because Big Brother says they don't. By the way, and here I go again, by show of hands, like I said before, how many of you have ever gone to assist your elderly relative when you're just a little under the weather? Or went into work with just a cold or a bad cough, eh? Right into your fellow worker's face, you betcha. Yet you shame and prance around with your mask in public in a show of arrogance. It should be terrifying that so many people do not question authority because they see that authority is all-knowing. It's even more terrifying that these people rely on corrupt leaders to lead, thus lacking all critical thinking skills and independence. You thought slavery ended? How quickly history is forgotten and repeating. Jorge, Santa Ana, those who forget the past are destined to what? Repeat it. You know what's most problematic to me about all this is that people who are wearing masks for the greater good will be the first to sign up for the shiny new vaccine that has 0 longitudinal safety test against an inert placebo. And this vaccine may be a deciding factor in life moving forward. You thought a mask was inconvenient? Wait until you're told that you cannot enter a store without proof of COVID-19 vaccine. Wait until you cannot go to the public events or travel without proof of having received this vaccine. Wait until the proletariat tells you, comrades, that you'll not get your Social Security check or be able to see a doctor until you show proof of being vaccinated. To everyone that doesn't believe this is possible, Do you understand that our government just successfully dictated to the people when they were allowed to be outside, where they were allowed to go, and how their children would be educated in less than 5-6 months? And that a majority of the population followed blindly because they were told to do so. Folks, you're kidding yourself if you believe that there's not going to be a repeat of this behavior with a vaccine. If people have not protested the occurrence of America over the last 6 months, they will surely continue to abide by unsubstantiated guidelines that will include a vaccine.
Quick break.
We're citing a warning here, folks. Headlines when we come back. B.J. Edwards along Mr. Anderson, your last call. Thanks for listening in, at least when you can hear us. We're still playing around.
You can still see us.
Yep. Why is that not working?
I have no idea.
Is the volume up?
Stay tuned for Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Well, I was a little off cue on my picture here.
Good for you, Vinny. I just called the sales department of Wayfair and informed them of child trafficking on their website. Absolutely insane, folks. Absolutely insane. Look, if you do the research on masks, you're going to find out that they do very little to protect you. Now, I think that maybe wearing a mask during flu season might not be a bad idea. I think we could take a positive out of this. That if you have the flu, wearing a mask might be the right thing to do. But that doesn't mean if you don't have it, you wear it 24/7. Because the masks just don't protect, especially against this COVID, because of the particles. I'm not a doctor. And you could say, well, I've heard from the CDC or the WHO. Who?
Who?
But that doesn't make any difference, folks. They're inconsistent. I don't think they really know. All they're seen to be headed for is a vaccine.
Oh, that's the goal.
Yep. By the way,
Bill Gates can make trillions.
Yep. I need to put this on.
What, your mask?
Nope. Nope. This I received in the mail the other day. And I'm going to tell you that your First Amendment rights are being trampled. Every time some mayor, county supervisor, or governor, or as the case here in Ohio, your emperor demands that you wear a face mask, that you do social distancing, 6 foot. Really? What does 6 foot mean? That was your cue, Mr. Anderson. So you have your new no face mask card yet? Do you have it? Your no face mask card? That's what this is.
Why, 6 foot because we're not using the metric system?
We must make our voices heard all across America to push back against tyrannical destruction of our First Amendment. Folks, there are studies out there and evidence that masks don't work against COVID-19. That they actually might pose serious risk to the healthy, and damage they have done to the public unity and the family is just palatable. Due to the pseudo-scientific face mask, social distancing, and seriousness of contact tracing. From a constitutional point of view, the Department of Justice had this to say in defense of the church lawsuit against the city of Greenville, South Carolina. Listen carefully here. There is no pandemic exception to the fundamental liberties the Constitution safeguards. Indeed, individual rights secured by the Constitution do not disappear during a public health crisis. These individual rights, including protection in the Bill of Rights made applicable to the states through the 14th Amendment, are always in force and restrain government action. Go to my Facebook page, B.J. Edwards, and look up the citizensforfreespeech.org and get yourself one of these. And this basically says wearing a face mask poses serious health risks to me. Under the Health Insurance Portability HIPAA Portability and Accountability Act, I am not required to disclose any medical conditions to you. In other words, if you say it's unhealthy for me to wear a mask, you can't question that. Otherwise, you should be fined. I am exempt from any local and state regulations mandating face mask usage in public. Your health, the Constitution. All you have to do is stand up, folks. And that's the problem. We aren't standing up. We're just accepting this for what we believe, which is that the government knows best. And it's obvious that they don't. We see it. Again, go to BJ Edwards' Facebook page, and you can see how to get one of those masks. I highly recommend that you get one. Let me put this on, because I'm not wearing a face mask this morning, so let me do this. And you got that video up?
Video?
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
I gave you the hint, the redheaded guy,
Oh,
about the 6 foot clearance distance.
this is running slow. It'll take me a minute.
Okay.
I don't know if my voice is carrying.
It is. I can hear it. But the audience doesn't care. They just want to hear me.
That could be true.
Wearing these cloth masks for this virus is akin to putting up a chain link fence to keep out mosquitoes. I love it. Good for you, Bill. Good for you, Biker Bill. Hey, 302-202-1110.
Boy,
1110. Is that because of it's the PC or the laptop?
it's because I got too much going on one computer at one time.
Okay.
So it's going to take me.
Well, maybe we'll get to it today. I'm going to give you one more. I'll give you one more chance, Mr. Anderson. I don't know, and this is from on a friend of mine on the internet. I don't know anyone who's traveled more than me in 2020. I took 20 flights from January 1st to April 3rd. I visited Florida, New York, Colorado, Connecticut, Arizona, Alabama, Utah, and Switzerland. I was at Sundance Film Festival, where I spent 3 days eating dinner family style every night with 50 people. Then during the lockdown in April and June, I went to the same coffee shop every day to try and keep them in business. And every week to Walmart, Home Depot, and H-E-B, that's the grocery for you non-Texans. In fact, for the past 6 months, I've done very little to curtail my life and business because I refuse to live in fear, miss a mortgage payment, fire employees, or shut down the companies that I busted my rear end to build the last 5 years. Guess what? I haven't gotten sick. My family hasn't gotten sick. And as far as I know, no one that I've worked with has gotten sick. Yes, I've complied with the mask mandates in hotels, restaurants, and airports. I've washed my hands and used more sanitizer than before. But guys, this thing has been sold to us like it's the end of the world. And if it were as bad as they sold it to us, it's almost unfathomable that I could have avoided it given what I've shared. I've almost been reckless. The reaction to this virus has put tens of millions out of work, added trillions of dollars to the national debt, denied people the chance to bury and marry loved ones, and created a culture of fear and loneliness across the nation. And what have we really seen? The experts have not only been wrong, but in some cases committed fraud to maintain the narrative. Our government would commit fraud? Really? The government has lied and keeps moving the goalpost. And the media, the ratings will never be better than when they have captive audience afraid to leave their homes.
Okay. I'm not sure why this is not working.
I'm sure some of the people will be upset at this post. Maybe you'll want to share an article or some data with me to prove me wrong, or just ask to speak to my manager. Well, you can save your breath. There's a news story and statistics to support everyone's biases. I'm going to repeat that. There's a news story and a statistic to support everyone's bias. Figures don't lie, but liars figure. I have my own little collection too. Just know that I wish you well, and the next time I put on my mask, I'll think of you. Now for the rest of you, if you've made it this far, I have a question for you. What did we do to get our lives back? What do we do to get our livelihoods back? What do we do to get our freedoms back? What do we do? So you can't play any of the links?
Well, I don't know yet. It's not working like it's supposed to.
Well?
But I'll keep trying, and when you see it come on your screen and you see an actual picture, it'll be ready. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on here. I got it here, as you can see. And then I go back. We're learning as we go, folks. We're learning as we go.
302-202-1110 if you'd like to talk to host BJ or Mr. Anderson. We're going to go to headlines, but I'm going to take a quick break before we do that. So I think I can do that while Mr. Anderson is
Playing around.
playing around. Actually, what we're trying to do is keep you informed, folks.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
The headlines are so telling. They're just so telling. I can't get over when I go out in public and I see everybody with a mask on. And the fear in their eyes when they look at me and I don't have a mask on. That is insane. Absolutely insane. Again, we didn't do this. Again, we didn't do this. When the flu was around. We didn't do this. When the flu was around.
Okay.
You got it?
Okay.
You think?
Yeah. Now you will have to mute yourself for this.
Yeah,
Now you will have to mute yourself for this.
Then I will do that.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Cletus, I need you to come up with social distancing guidelines.
But, sir, I just cleaned the toilets here. I wouldn't know the first thing about it.
Just do it! We're all busy. You're the man for the job. I'll send you an assistant to help you make notes. Good work.
Okay.
Sir, the Surgeon General just tweeted this. Seriously, people, stop buying masks. They are not effective in preventing general public from catching coronavirus. Sounds like we should mandate masks. Okay, so medical grade masks?
No, just anything. An old handkerchief, a worn-through t-shirt with holes in it, a maxi pad for all I care. I think these are all medical devices exquisitely designed to keep viruses out of the human body. I think. Tell people to stay 6 feet apart.
Why 6 feet?
Because we don't use the metric system. This is America. We don't do meters.
Yes, sir. I understand why we're measuring in feet, but why 6 of them?
It seems like a good medically sound number to me.
Okay, we're finding obesity is a factor that terribly increases someone's risk for COVID-19. What do we do?
Let's close all the gyms.
For how long? We'll reopen the gyms once they're closed long enough that they all go out of business. That way they can't reopen. That sounds effective, sir. And while we're at it, let's close down all the playgrounds. But make sure the vending machines are still open so people can still get their sodas. Sir, may I ask, what are you working on there?
Oh, I'm drawing a cat.
It's beautiful. Sir, studies have found that with COVID-19 patients in Indonesia, 98.9% of them that had vitamin D deficiency died. But only 4% of patients with vitamin D sufficiency died. And approximately 70% of the US has a vitamin D deficiency. What do you think we should do? We need a new mandate. Everybody's got to stay inside. The last thing we need is people being exposed to the sun, breathing fresh air. They need protection. Oh wait, that looks better like this. And close all the beaches. Okay, people can go back on the beaches again, but only standing or swimming, no sitting. This disease is highly contagious in the sitting position. Is it? Yeah. Okay, restaurants can open again, but there's some highly specific safety guidelines we need to put in place. First off, you have to wear a mask while you're walking to your table, but you don't have to wear a mask while you're seated at your table. Why is that? Because now the virus isn't contagious in the seated position. But you have to put your mask back on to walk to the bathroom. Because this virus is highly contagious in the walking position. Possibly. And there's only one person allowed in the bathroom at a time. God knows people would be having COVID orgies in there if they could. Great ideas, sir. That sounds like enough busy work to make people think we're being effective, don't you think? Excellent, sir. I have some new information, sir. The CDC says the coronavirus does not easily spread on surfaces. In that case, no reusable menus either. Let's require all restaurants and small businesses that are struggling to hire extra staff to spray down and clean surfaces every hour. Well, that sounds ridiculous. You're right. Every 15 minutes. Better to be safe. Sir, the World Health Organization now says that asymptomatic people usually don't spread the coronavirus. Really? Wow, this thing's worse than we thought. Okay. 6 more months of lockdown. But tell them it'll just be 2. What's up, you beautiful weirdo? I want to let you know I have all new Awaken shirt designs out now. The Stay Weird and the Tupac Chopra. Go to Awaken.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I have to mute myself during the videos, or we get feedback. We're still working on a new system.
No sound.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We got it now.
This is a professional staff here. Have you noticed?
I was saying that humor really helps during difficult times like what we're experiencing right now, and getting the message across with humor and with sarcasm ain't necessarily a bad thing.
Mike Kerr uses it.
Mm-hmm.
If you read his Facebook
Yeah.
post.
We should have sound now, Bill. We should have it. Just say you have sound, or
He says, yep, you're good.
okay, good. Yep, good. Thank you.
Can you hear Mr. Anderson?
So what we're trying to do is really how ridiculous all this is. Do you really think if this disease is that contagious, that short of living in a bubble, you're going to be able to avoid contact with it or expose other people? I mean, seriously. There's something to be said about not herd mentality, about herd immunity. And if we run around in a bubble and we never expose ourselves, and we do that, let's say for 5 years or 10 years, which is going to be impossible, but let's just say we do that, you might as well get on a plane and go to Mars, because you're going to be in a brand new atmosphere. That atmosphere is going to kill you.
A plane to Mars?
Yeah.
Boy, are we advanced.
Yep. Yep. Well, as long as you have a mask on, anything's possible, right? Put your mask on, get on a plane, and expect to go to Mars.
Mars.
Yeah, it's this insanity that we're going through is just incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. And I'm gonna read some of the headlines, and just see how insane all this is. By the way, the cancer culture is out of hand. Ford Motor Company employees demand the company stop making police cars.
What?
Why? Yeah, why? Because they're accessories to police brutality and oppression and racist policing policies.
Are you reading Babylon Bee?
No, I'm not. This is actual. The Ford Motor Company CEO Jim Hackett politely but firmly refused. No, they did actually say we need to stop making police cars. And say, well, they can run around on bikes. No, they'll stop making bikes too. Just Roger Stone's final interview. We're going to get to Roger Stone here in a moment. DeWine took loans from taxpayer-funded programs to fund his baseball team. This guy is worth, the Emperor of Ohio is worth $50 million.
Maybe more.
$50 million. How do you do that? Have you ever seen Mike DeWine in public? Or have you seen any videos of this guy? And he's worth $50 million. How did that happen? It didn't happen.
Politics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Profitable business.
BLM leader, we're back to headlines. Whites are subhuman genetic defects, and a lady's begging Allah to help her not kill white folks. Disney hires historian Colin Kaepernick to teach our children about real history.
Wait a minute.
That's for real too.
Historian?
Yes. The 11th commandment. Mass now required at all religious services in designated counties. Ohio Emperor edicts. They've got them in parking lots. Now they're going to be in their cars with masks on, right? Honk, honk. Honk if you love Jesus. Mayor de Blasio, all large black gatherings banned except for Black Lives Matter protesters. BLM mob once again swarms St. Louis couple's home. Harassment so bad they boarded up their home. I think they took one of his guns, by the way, too. Not the protesters, but the government.
There's another hard to believe one.
U.S. Army investigating email message claiming Make America Great Again and Columbus Day celebrations are signs of white supremacy. This is good news. In Ohio, Founders Abortion Clinic Center is closed.
Yay!
That was the first abortion clinic in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, that is good news.
Canada's former chief of public health officer, speaking of more good news, quote, end the COVID lockdowns. That's from Canada. House Republicans take aim at WHO after it's revealed it lied about China reporting on COVID-19. Pittsburgh, Philly mayor is pushing for power to impose local gun laws. You do understand that if you speak up, you're liable to be arrested, you conservatives. And if you're arrested and you have a carry license and you have a felony, what happens?
Lose your carry license.
Mm-hmm.
They take your guns. Just what they're trying to do.
And I mentioned this briefly. Trump commutes longtime friend Roger Stone's prison sentence.
Now, what does that mean?
I'm glad you asked that question, Mr. Anderson. Why didn't he pardon him? What's the difference between commute and pardon?
Yes.
A commute refers to an act of partially or fully reducing an offender's sentence term, often by deducting the time already served hence they can be released from prison. And
Probably not very popular with the libtards, but a very good move.
this does not eliminate federal convictions, hence a person's civil rights are not restored. A commute does not restore their civil rights, which means what? Roger Stone isn't voting, is he?
Right. But at least he's not in prison and facing.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm explaining what the difference is between a pardon and a commute.
Okay.
And a pardon, this is a government decision to grant clemency to a person who they feel have been wrongfully convicted and has served his sentence. Although it does not make one innocent of the crime convicted against, it restores civil rights to offenders such as the right to vote and run for office. Commute refers to the act of partially or fully reducing an offender's sentence term, often by deducting the time already served, hence they can be released from prison. It does not restore a convict's civil rights. That's the difference. On the other hand, pardon refers to a government decision to grant clemency to a person who they feel have been wrongfully convicted and has served his sentence and restores a convict's civil rights. Both are, by the way, forms of clemency. And clemency is disposition to a merciful or especially to moderate the severity of punishment due to the judge ignored the prisoner's pleas for clemency. An act or an instance of leniency. The governor's clemency saved the lives of many death row prisoners. By the way, this is just one less person that will be voting for Trump this year. So Democrats are smart. They know how to reduce the number of voters for Trump, right?
Yeah.
So ruin the economy. You know, you all need
Keep them all at home, mail-in voting, and humiliate them. Oh, they got all kinds of strategies.
In Ohio, we got a war going on. Actually, in a nation, but in Ohio,
Global, actually.
Yep.
But
we're trying to tell the emperor here, Emperor DeWine, that he has no clothes. He isn't listening so far. But there is a congressman in Ohio that is really, really speaking out on the subject, and I'm going to get to that after our break. B.J. Edwards, along Mr. Anderson, your last call. If you'd like to talk to us, 302-202-1110. We do have a caller on the line, so coming back, we'll start with that caller. Hang in there. B.J. Edwards, along Mr. Anderson, your last call. Maybe.
Stay tuned for Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
And we are back. We have Mike on the line. And something that's happening in America, which is really sad, is that people are losing their jobs. They're losing their livelihoods. They're going to prison for speaking the truth, and especially for having conservative values. And hang in there, Mike. I think I can unmute you. Mike, are you on with us?
Hey,
Can
there
you?
we go.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
I've been shouting at you. But anyway,
I had you muted. I'm sorry, Mike. By the way, Mike, that's Mrs. BJ's job, not yours.
is that Mike Keith?
Yeah, it's Mike.
Yeah, I was. It said the robot said unmute, and then now I can yell at you in real life. Okay.
Mike, we've had him on the program before. Mike is basically standing up for righteousness in America and has done that for years. And Mike worked for a company called FedEx, right, for quite some time?
Yeah, about 4 years off and on, and they fired me for being a Christian American white man.
How terrible of you.
Yeah, you got to do something about that
Yeah.
whiteness.
Yeah.
Yep. They see. I've always practiced my whole adult life argue a narrative I was the head of the Christian Civic League of Maine, the oldest Christian public policy group in the state of Maine for 20 years. So I learned how to craft a religious and political narrative. Shortly after that, I started getting pictures of male body parts in my email, and hate mail and threats in my home mail. My wife was getting threats. It just, I even ended up going to the local police in Mount Airy over a couple of them. And it was just insane, because the left is insane. They're unhinged insane now, of course, the political left in America. And so one of these cowards made an anonymous complaint. They probably got the Southern Poverty Law Center to fund their research, and they combed through my stuff and printed out a bunch of stuff, and then they spun out a narrative that I was wearing the FedEx uniform in videos online that almost nobody watches, because I don't have much of an audience, because I'm one of the only Christians on the planet who's willing to use the word faggot in the context of saying that homosexuality is immoral and wrong. So my audience is small. That's fine. And I had to work for FedEx for $12 an hour, because that's about the only job left to me after the church fired me. The evangelical Christian church fired me 10 years ago. So I was doing blue-collar work for $12 an hour and continuing to spin out my Christian and political narrative on the web, on the internet, on my website, and on Facebook, and yada, yada, yada. So anonymous complaint. I'm perp walked for about 5 minutes in a big old terminal in Kernersville, North Carolina, and sat down in a locked room alone with this intimidating interrogator who wouldn't tell me why he was doing this to me. This was a week and a half ago. And about halfway into it, I had to say to him, look, I need a lawyer. I need some time to think about this, because this is incriminating. You're attacking me. And he said, nope, if you don't finish the interview, you're done, you're toast, your history, you're all over. I mean, I'm embellishing a little bit, but more or less that's what he said. And by the way, JR, he told me during the interrogation that he's a good Christian. And so I was glad to learn that.
There's an awful lot of them out there, aren't there? Go ahead.
and then he read from my column something where I basically offered the Webster's definition of maggot, which is that they eat the rancid flesh of dead things. And he said, don't you think that that's a little bit incendiary? And I said, well, I'm going to tell you what's incendiary. It's an entity named God, who is the father of mankind, raining down fire, not verbal fire, but real fire from heaven on the five cities of the plain, two of which were named Sodom and Gomorrah. Perhaps you've heard of them.
Well, I'm sure if he's a Christian, he has, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I was a little bit test. Anyway, so that went on, and then a week went by, a week and a half went by, and Wednesday of this week, the contractor that I work with, who has an exclusive contract with FedEx, the corporation, gets a call from the black guy who runs the terminal, who said, I've never met, a guy named Tyrell, I think, Tyrus or something, I think it's Tyrus. I've never met him. He never called me, didn't have the courtesy to pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, look, could you take those videos down where you're wearing the purple? Doesn't have the courtesy to talk with me. Calls my contractor, says, your man, Michael Heath, has been disqualified. And we're still trying to figure out what that means. But I mean, what it means in reality is they just, like that, took my truck, took my badge, said, you can't work for FedEx forever, anywhere on the planet, without even a phone call from the guy who made the decision.
Because
that's America.
Yeah, because it's because of conservative views. You know, Michael, that if you had said something positive for BLM, or if you said that all white folks are racist, you wouldn't be in the situation you're in today. This isn't about you're saying the wrong thing. This is about you're not saying the right thing, and we need to get that down. Go ahead.
They've reached the stage of punishing people who don't celebrate evil. If I had worn the purple in a Facebook video and said sodomy is awesome, then they would have put me in the uniform on the float that they ran down the streets of Atlanta in the Gay Pride Parade with the FedEx logo on it. That's what they would have done. That's viewpoint discrimination. It's viewpoint discrimination. It's pure evil. It's un-American, and they should give me $1 billion for what they've done. And if I can find a lawyer who's willing to sue them for $1 trillion, I'll do it.
Let me know, lawyers out there, if you know a lawyer out there, folks, because we'd like to help this gentleman out. This is about Christian rights. This is about conservative ideals. Look at President Trump, who tries to talk about every time he tries to talk about a conservative ideal, he gets ripped, and he goes to court and he gets sued, or the Supreme Court. Well, if you think that you're isolated from that, you're crazy. Now, if you wear a mask and don't say anything, you'll be fine. If that's the way you want to live your life,
hey,
go for it.
JR, these things aren't masked; they're muzzled.
Yeah, they are.
They're muzzled.
They are.
In order to correspond with, we need to get things in our minds corresponding with reality. If these were masked, they would be actually accomplishing something. They're accomplishing nothing except muzzling us, making us compliant to the global order. And that's all it's about. There's no science to this mask wearing at all. Because the virus, anyway, we don't need to get into it. There's so much stuff now available critical of this mask wearing by the masses. I mean, the mask is effective if it's used properly. Now, let me step back a step. We're talking about a very small virus here when we're talking about a coronavirus. And mask wearing makes sense if it's done properly in a health setting. But telling everyone to, I mean, a lot of I'm out traveling today, and a lot of people aren't even wearing masks. They're wearing these kerchiefs, and it's open. It's just such, and everybody has got to be thinking and asking themselves, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. You know?
Amen.
It doesn't. It's not, there's no reason to this. It's a muzzle. They are muzzling good people who want to ask honest questions about all of these stupid regulations that contradict one another. And I'm sorry to keep going on, but I just went into a store. I'm on my way into Lexington, Kentucky, and just an hour ago, and there was a sign that said, "We can't make change because the Federal Reserve is no longer issuing change." So then I went to pay for my chocolate and my coffee. It was in a sheet, and the guy says to me from behind his plexiglass while he's wearing his muzzle, he says, "I can't give you change, but I can give you a gift card for 53 cents or something, and I can round it up to $4, and I can contribute the change to charity." I had him repeat it twice because
man!
I had to have him repeat it twice to try to understand what. But here's what that's about. They are now moving. So they started with COVID, then they moved to a river store. Now they're moving to a cashless society. And it's all happening at the same time. All happening at the same time.
If
nobody can keep up with it. Nobody.
Now we're going to go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you can make your change donation to Last Call, your charity,
Mike Heath's Legal Fund.
Mike Heath's Legal Fund, yeah,
that's okay. You know, you should.
Can you imagine?
Go ahead.
Can you imagine that the Federal Reserve is? I don't know what the excuse was on the sign, but the Federal Reserve basically, the sign said the Federal Reserve is not issuing change. I hadn't even thought of that tactic, but they've got it. See, they figured this out years ago. But the end game here is they get us all using our credit and debit cards, and then they have a record of every single transaction. Every single transaction.
Mike, we have about 1 minute.
And it's tied.
Go ahead.
And it's tied to your identity, right? It's tied to your personal identity because it's your credit or debit card.
We've got about 1 minute. Do you have any contact information, or what can we do to help you?
Yeah, you can. I lost my income. You can make a donation to my ministry, Helping Hands Ministries, and it's very simple. Go to Michael, Michael, Heath, Heath, michaelheath.org, michaelheath.org. And I don't care if you donate to me, but that would help right now because I just lost my income, and I'm not rich. And speaking this way for 30 years, so aren't lots of people who are willing to be in your corner if you're willing to use the word faggot publicly. But how many men use that privately, even today, to describe how angry they are about what's being done to them? Well, you know what? It's time to stop doing it privately and do it publicly, because some things are worth being called out as evil.
That's true.
Did I go more than a minute?
That's true.
That's fine, Michael. We're going to have to go to our break. Thank you very much for what you do. Thank you very much for taking the time, and have a safe trip, a great trip, and best to your wife, and we'll see what we can do to help you out, Michael.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, JR. God bless you both.
I'm sorry fellow Americans are treating you so badly.
Well, here's the deal.
Well,
we're going to take all your liberties away from you. And if you agree with that, just wear a mask. Just wear a mask, and we'll take that as a sign that you don't want any more of your liberties any longer. I mean, you got Mike Heath at FedEx. There's a lady in Ohio City, an officer that is put on paid administrative leave because she expressed conservative values. And the same lesbian, gay organizations went after her. They made the phone calls. That the fellow we know in California that lost his job, they were making 10 calls an hour to get him fired. 10 calls an hour. This is insane. This is absolutely insane.
Yep.
Somebody has to stand up, and we praise Mike for doing that. We praise everyone else that is doing that as well. I think we're going to have to go to that hard break, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I got it ready.
Okay. B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson, your last call. And we'll be right back.
Oop, wrong mouse.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
Are we ready to come back, Mr. Anderson?
We're back.
We're back. Okay,
We're back.
We got another caller on the line, and I want to, before Roger, hang in there with us. Before I get to our other caller, I want to go. I mentioned a representative in Ohio who is fighting this, and God bless him for fighting it. He starts out. You do know that if your county, he's talking about Ohio, it's level 4 on the DeWine-Husted fear map. Husted is with DeWine. Your county will go into automatic lockdown. You'll be told you can only move around for essential services again. Yesterday, a July 8th Columbus Dispatch headline screams, Ohio spikes continue with 4th highest number of daily cases. Basically, this is the news media carries this. Every 15 minutes, the news media will give the update on the number of cases and how bad it is and what we're losing here and what we can't do there. Every 15 minutes. And you can't turn on a TV these days without hearing at least every minute or 2 minutes the word COVID. Try it. COVID is there all the time, like water drip, 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 continually. It does not stop. It does not stop.
That's why I leave my TV off.
Yep.
I have for 3 weeks now.
And I think I can get him on here. Roger, can you hear us okay?
Should be there.
Yeah. Roger, do we have you on the line?
He's there. You
Yeah.
hear his background noise.
Sometimes Roger goes to sleep. I'll try to get back with you in a minute or two, Roger.
I don't know where.
Yeah.
I hear car noise.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just listening on this
Okay.
line for some reason.
I'll get back with Nino. The most recent data buried in Ohio's COVID-19 website shows a positive daily test rate percentage of 5%, a positive daily test rate of 5% as of July 6th, stated the Ohio State House News article. The highest daily percentage positive rate was 37% reported on April 19th, 2020. The lowest daily percentage rate was 3% reported on June 8th, 2020. They're playing with the figures. They're playing with the time. They're playing with words. We aren't seeing an increase in the actual percentage of positive tests. A surge in new reported cases is only happening because Ohio has quadrupled its daily test over the past several months, what I told you earlier today. That positive test multiple times count as separate individual cases. Jesse Lee Peterson, if you can bring that up, Mr. Anderson.
Okay.
Or did you have something else that you needed to play?
Well, I was going to introduce that clip from Prager.
Okay. Let's do that when you get a chance.
It's very long, but I would like to start it, and then maybe people could go to the website and listen to the rest of it. But
yeah.
I think it's very good about.
Okay. Roger, are you on with us? Crazy fella. Roger, I'm going to mute you again.
I hear heavy breathing.
Yeah.
He's trying to talk now.
I don't think so.
If he's using speakerphone, that doesn't work well.
Okay. Mute it again. Maybe he's just listening. Anyway, this is a representative, Nino Vitale, from Ohio, that is in the Ohio State Legislature. And he's one of very few that are speaking out against all this insanity. And good for him, but he needs people to support him. If you're in Ohio, get in contact with this guy, or just like him. NINOVITALE. And he speaks about every day about what's going on. By the way, he does bring up a good point. Did you ever get tested for the flu during flu season when you were not sick?
Exactly.
We're back to those CDC figures again, right? 3 months ago, they didn't have a COVID test. Now they do. How accurate is that? Which one's the best? It's going to be like that vaccine. We're just going to have to try it, and you're going to be a guinea pig. We need mice with masks on, right? You live in interesting times. By the way, the 4th of July weekend, apparently, and according to Chicago Mayor Lori Lightweight, this 4th of July past was pretty quiet and peaceful. Nothing out of the ordinary. Only 79 people were shot over the past holiday weekend, July 4th. And I quote from the good mayor, "It was mostly peaceful, very calm, lots of people enjoying themselves. Very fun," she said. "Yes, there were a few run-of-the-mill murders and shootings, but hey, we just call that Saturday here in Chicago." Other than people getting shot on basically every block, it was largely calm and peaceful. Lightfoot, or Lightweight, also pointed out that most people who committed murders were practicing social distancing and wearing masks. Encouraging surveillance footage also showed that Chicago murderers are using hand sanitizer and wiping their weapons down after each murder. So by that metric, I think it was definitely a success. We're making a lot of progress on that front. She further stated that she suspects the murderers are actually paid by Trump supporters trying to make her city look bad. That was from the Babylon Bee.
That sounded real.
Yeah. And we no longer have Aunt Jemima. Okay? We're going to have to go to Aunt BJ's syrup.
Aunt BJ's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aunt BJ's syrup. We're going to be selling that along with our rocks. If you know what I mean. Look at this. This is just I got one more thing I want to get out about this insanity with the face mask.
Got another caller, but
Yeah. You ready to play?
I'm going to try it. We'll
Okay.
see what happens.
All right. Hang on.
Wait a minute. I think I made a mistake. Go ahead and take the caller.
Okay. Hang in there. Hang in there. I have to flip over here.
This thing works so slow for me. I
Yep.
have a hard time.
I think I have Keith on the line with us. Keith, are you there?
Actually, it's Ray, and I joined this way because I called your other numbers and it said that the program is offline.
Oh, okay. So
I was just going to listen.
okay, you're calling in to listen and didn't want to comment. And that's good. That's being smart. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and put you on. I'm gonna go ahead and put you on mute.
I haven't been
Was that on Facebook or was that on our radio line?
I looked on Messenger at the message that you had posted in the
Okay. It's
Christian militia, and
it's a number we normally give out then. Okay, thank you. Sometimes we have problem with them. And Ray, thank you for listening. I'm going to put you back on so you can just listen. Okay?
okay.
All right. Sorry about that. Hang on, please. You're muted. I love technology.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know when things aren't working so
Yeah.
that we know that we have at least something that we can try to fix.
Yep.
We may not.
Remember, Aunt BJ's syrup, Aunt BJ's syrup, and it's okay to say Aunt BJ. Okay? It's all right to say Aunt. I don't care. We don't care. We're not going to get offended. Aunt BJ.
Where did it go? Now I lost it. Boy, I am not hitting very well today.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I don't know why. I told you I didn't like using the laptop so much.
Okay. Well, we'll fix that next week. We won't use it. We have a lot of issues in America today. And racism, folks, is not one of them. I want you to think about this. And all the talk about forgiveness, racism, and reconciliation, and reparations for past sins of our forefathers and supposed systemic racism. Our good friend Rusty Thomas wrote that he was reminded the other day by a brother that perhaps today's America might want to take a good look at ourselves from present-day sins. What? For instance, we encourage young people, children, to not only question their origins, life has no meaning, morals are relatives, you evolved, but their families as well. We've established evolution as fact. We also ask them to question their own sex. Are you sure? You've got equipment here, but are you sure you should have been given that at birth? And we can change that for you. How old are you? 6? No problem. We'll take care of that for you. And don't worry about your parents. Don't worry about it. They don't have any say in this. We're from the government, and we're here to help you. So don't worry about it. Think about this. What we're doing to our children, the child abuse right now that we're doing. Think about that.
Hello?
Do you really? Hey, Roger. Do we have you now?
How are you?
I'm
You got
fine.
me.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have something to say, or were you just trying to call in to listen as well?
Oh, you're just a closed-minded, shallow thinker bigot, baby.
You noticed that I was white? You noticed that I was white and that I'm a baby boomer? Is that what you noticed?
You're just closed-minded, man. Now, come on, we're in the 21st century, baby.
You
Things are changing.
You probably think I'm a Christian too, right? Go ahead.
Well, hey, that Bible of yours, that's merely a story, brother. That's not the word of God. That's just kind of a story. And you know, you gotta broaden your horizons. I'm just saddened by the fact that you're just closed-minded, man. This is the 21st century.
Well, I should apologize, but I won't, because I'm closed-minded.
Now, there are a few things I agree with you on, and I might highlight those if I have a moment. But
Go for it.
I do kind of have trouble with this idea that you can change gender. That's pretty wild, if you ask me, baby. I'll tell you.
Just like you change
You know,
genes.
if you're able to do that, I'm pretty impressed with you.
Well, you change wives, and it's just as easy to change genders.
I guess, brother.
So what else do you
But
take
you have a
exception
good
with?
old day today, and listen, you need to open your mind up a little bit and read some other books other than God's Word and the truth.
I did that already. But okay, I'll try it again, Roger, only because you say so. And I appreciate you calling in, brother. And I'll work on getting better. Anyway, I was talking about our current sins, and we're talking about abusing children. How about divorce? We're separating them from their parents, their natural parents. Do you really think that when you're 6 years old, or 13, or for that matter, 21, that you won't regret decisions that you've made? Of course you will. You regret decisions you made when you were 40, for those of you who've gotten there. But what happens when you become a new person? And I mean physically a different sex. Or you're confused about your sexuality and practice unnatural sex with unnatural partners. And you end up with a disease related to that. Or maybe you think it's okay to have sex with underage children. Oh yes. Oh yes. It's coming to that. It's coming to that. And how about our abandoning of children? We're talking about today's wonderful, perfect America. What do you mean abandon children, BJ? We opt them out like some sort of an animal in hopes that perhaps the government will take better care of them, or a complete stranger. We have the babies and we give them over to the government for adoption or for foster care. We're all born with an app. That app gives you a desire for a mother and a father. And by the way, that's one female and one male. Well, I guess that would be one male and one female if we do it in order, right? A large portion of children who are fortunate enough to live in two-parent homes are blessed. But many don't live with their biological parents, either one of them, or maybe just one of them. And if they do, in some cases, those parents are abusive. I could run down the list. Divorce, abortion, sodomite marriage, child protective services, oppressive taxation. There you go, Don. Pornography, child, drugs, spousal abuse. The feminist attack on masculinity. The nation's attack on white males, males in general. Emphasis on atomization. In other words, you're an individual and you don't belong to a family. And if it feels good, you should do it. Diversity, public school indoctrination, open borders, socialism, Marxism. The list goes on. Today's modern women can be found dressing like sluts and whores, exhibiting their virtues for all the world to see, painting their faces, altering their bodies, shaking their booty, and then found complaining about being disrespected. And we, of course, blame men for that. Amen? Speaking of men, most men just won't accept responsibility for parenting or for educating the children or even teaching them basic rights and wrongs. Again, fathers, we farm that out to others. God didn't give me these children to educate them. No, that's not my job. Oh, no, not my job. Really? And I'm not going to teach them morals. That's the church's job. Have you seen today's church? The ones where they honk their horns and now they're wearing masks and do what the government says and talk only about peace, love, joy, and understanding. Won't criticize. Won't turn over changing tables. That church. And we wonder why we're in the shape we're in today. Look at folks, racism is dead. Dead. Systematic racism is dead, does not exist. Are there people that express racist comments? Of course there are. Especially against whites and Christians. But as long as you don't act on those in a systematic way, which is happening to whites. Remember the old program we had, BJ had? The most discriminated people again in the United States is that white, male, Christian, baby boomer. That's not changed, it's gotten worse.
Yeah, that's what Roger was complaining about.
We really need to pick it up, folks. But racism is not the problem. We need to allow people to be successful, not pay them to not be successful, not to create a dependent, not to make slaves out of them. Every time they have a baby, the government pays them more money, and if they're not married, even more so. That, my friends, is a problem, and that is systematic. Needs to stop. We need to start taking responsibility. And the church needs to stand up as well. I've got a good friend in Australia who wrote an article the other day, which I have to share with you. It's the most incredible article, very telling, and very instructive. And it's something I've been trying to say for years, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I can't say it as well as she does. At least I don't think I have. Harriet Connor from Sydney, Australia, starts out with, I have learned a great deal from the families in my church. And when I say families, I just don't mean parents and their young children. There's Kath in her 40s, who brings her elderly grandfather to church. Kath's twin sister, niece, and uncle have also started coming to the church regularly. Together with Kat's immediate family, they now take up almost 2 rows of the church. Then there's Ern and Faye, both over 80, who always sit near the window where the sun streams in. At first I assumed they were husband and wife, a married couple. Actually, they're brother and sister. Both of them widowed. Finally, there's Margaret's. She is an older, single divorcee. By most weeks, she's accompanied by her teenage granddaughter. The extended family groups in our church usually sit together. But there's always room for one more. Kat is like an auntie to several of the young children in the congregation. Margaret's grandmother moves around, often sitting with one of the other families or teenage girls. Do you see what's happening here? Do you see a blended church? Can I coin that term? A blended church? Blended meaning family with the church? Churches need natural families. Again, I'm reading from an article from Harriet Connor. Because they can show the church, listen closely here, how to be a family. Your pastor is not the grandfather. I know, I heard. Thanks. Are we not broadcasting on the radio?
We are.
We are? Okay. Then there's churches need natural families because they can show the church how to be a family. But natural families also need the church. Reciprocal. No family can or should be spiritually self-sufficient. For this reason, churches should affirm natural families, but also encourage them to see themselves as part of a wider household, a household of God, ready to embrace those members of the church who come alone. The church does not usually replace the family. It is true that Jesus relativized the concept of family by establishing the spiritual family of God. Jesus invited everyone to be born again. Born again into what? Into the family of God. Do you know how critically important the family is just in terms of communicating? The Father in heaven. This involves pledging allegiance to Jesus, even at the expense of biological relationships. Jesus, even at the expense of our biological relationships. Jesus predicted that his gospel would divide families, as some members choose to join God's spiritual family and others do not. God's family also offered a new place and purpose for the unmarried and the childless, since its growth no longer depended on biological reproduction, but on the spread of the gospel. But it is important to recognize that Jesus and the early church also upheld the value and necessity of the biological family. Jesus may have asked, "Who is my mother?" early on in his ministry, but his final act was to ensure that his mother Mary would be provided for after his death. In fact, through a spiritual son. Jesus may have drawn a stark contrast between his earthly family and his family of committed disciples, but eventually the two would significantly overlap. His mother and brothers became core members of the early church. This is all very interesting information, folks. It's interesting that Jesus' band of disciples included two sets of brothers, probably some members of Jesus' own extended family too. Families were also an important pathway for the church to spread. Yes, the gospel called people to pledge their loyalty to a higher eternal family, but it also grew within and spread through earthly families. For instance, the first thing that Andrew did after meeting Jesus was to find his brother Simon and bring him to Jesus. In the book of Acts, we see the whole family groups hearing and believing the gospel together. We see whole family groups being baptized and joining the mission of the church. That's in Acts 16:29 through 34. More explicitly, Jesus and his apostles reaffirmed the commandments that deal with the family life. Craig, I'll get to you probably after the break. Jesus called husbands and wives to remain faithful to one another for life and called children to honor their parents. Children to honor their parents. More explicitly, Jesus and his apostles reaffirmed the commandments that deal with family life. Jesus called husbands and wives to remain faithful to one another for life. Paul commanded Christian children to put their religion into practice by caring for their own family, adding that anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. We like to think of ourselves as atomized, autonomous individuals who choose to come to church. But really, all of us are shaped, pulled, and bound by a network of family ties we did not choose. When we come to church with members of our family, these bonds come with us. But I suggest that this is a good thing for the church and for the world. What the church needs most is not to loosen family bonds for the sake of creating a new spiritual family, but to encourage families to open themselves up to gospel priorities. This is pretty strong stuff and pretty interesting stuff. Would you not say, Mr. Anderson?
I would say so.
And I've known this. I develop. Maybe it's because I don't have a good memory, but I try to put information together and develop a sense about things. And I've always sensed the tie between the family and the church, and know the two to be very important, and that the two belong together. And I've known that, and I've sensed that. But our friend here from Australia, I think, is really bringing out the specifics of this biblically. Strong, strong information. Strong ties. There should not be a separation between family and the church. And there should not be a separation between the leadership in the family and direct ties to family members. The pastor, I guess, could be the spiritual father, if you will, of the church body. But they have to recognize the independence of the family itself, while noting the importance of the family as the foundation of all those institutions in society. God started with the church. God started with the family. The first institution that he created, Adam and Eve. The church was secondary, came second. And then the state. Those are the three institutions that God created for the benefit of man. Romans 13 applies, but, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, it would be great if we had a law in the United States, the supreme law of the land, which would say that you can't pass a law that would have a destructive factor on the family, that it has to have a positive effect on the family. Otherwise, it can't be considered a law. Families show the church as a model of relationships, and I'll get into that after the break. This is B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
And we're going to get back into the article. But before we do that, I don't know, Craig, you're on to talk, or you're on because the phone line broke down this morning?
Well, I'm out here putting first posts in the ground. We got horses out here, so
okay.
I was just listening to you, and I thought I'd chime in. I always like to support you. I believe in what you're doing, and
thank you.
I just want you to know that. And I thought I'd just comment on a couple things. One thing I think, people are delusional right now. The majority of people are that are buying a lot of the things that are going on. And I think sometimes the only way you can get a spark with them is to, kind of in a way like Rush Limbaugh, reach them with absurdity. So, it's the whole thing about transgenderism is changing something that's basically established. So, the reality is, well, why can't I just be a black person? If I feel like one, well, why can't I? They'll look at you and they'll say, well, obviously you're white. And it's like, well, that's just a DNA difference. When you really break it down, it's a DNA difference. So why can't I feel like one and get the same attributes and get all the privileges, or, the same connotation of being oppressed and reparations, if you feel like it. So I think sometimes it's just dealing absurdity with absurdity might open some people's mind. But, to the fact of what you're saying about the family and the church, that's something that we've really, we've done bad. Of course, we've become the culture. We're not supposed to be influenced by a culture. We're supposed to influence the culture. And when you do these Barna studies and you look at it, we really don't look any different than the world that we proclaim to be different from. And I think it is so important that back in the day, if you want to call it that people knew each other through the church, and you
Good
could,
point.
when there was joy with them, you could share in their joy, and when there was sadness, you could share in their sadness, and you learned how to be a better father, a better son, a better whatever, because you had some good examples in there for people who had been walking with the Lord. And I think that lady's letter was very valid, and I think we should try to institute that to the best that we can. And we get new people that come in or accept the Lord. And, that's great. You raise your hand, you say whatever, and hopefully, if you really have a change of heart, you're just left out on your own. You really need to be assigned somebody to walk with you and explain scriptures and be a point of reference that, hey, you can call me. And these people need to be mentored and fostered in their walk to understand everything, because Satan is going to come against them at some point very quickly to give them disillusion to their new walk. And, we don't do that. We don't look at it that way. It's just like, oh, here's your Bible, catch a sermon here and there, and, you're good to go. It's so totally not what the scriptures say.
Slam, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Bring that out.
Yeah, lacking discipleship.
Yep. Well,
That's right.
This
Discipleship.
This article just opened it up for me, Craig. I'm trying to explain to people. Like I say, I get feelings about things, and I sense things, and I act on that, and it's really a Holy Spirit nudge, but I don't have the details with it. And she kind of brings out these details that we are talking about two separate families, but they aren't two separate families, and they need to work together, and they complement one another, and they teach one another.
Well, and then something else that, the Lord's put on my heart lately is that these are my family. You're my family. You're my eternity. You know what I'm trying to say? Because, we're going to be able to look back, and say, wow, remember back when, and a lot of people aren't going to have that because, that even if they do make it with the Lord in heaven, they never invested in the people of His, and the only thing you can bring with you in heaven is the people that you get to influence, for the Lord. And those relationships, that's the enduring part, and I think that's going to be a neat thing to go through and have those experiences with the people that, you touched your life with. And they are your brothers and sisters. That's what Jesus, when Jesus was asked, his brother and sisters were out there, he basically said, well, that's not really who my brothers and sisters are. He says, family of God's my brothers and sisters. And I think if we had that type of focus and, zeal for the Lord, and I think we need to bring the, I think sometimes we try to just throw the church to the side of the road. I kind of feel like I'm embedded, so to speak. I'm embedded in church to make a difference. Not necessarily that I agree with everything or people see how I see it or whatever, but I know that they're foundationally solid in what they believe. And I think it's my role to try to do what God's put in my heart to help people grow in the Lord and also myself grow in the Lord and be a servant. So I think if people had that instead of just throw it out and say, well, they're over there and we're over here, that's not a good thing to be. It's,
I hear you. Craig, thank you very much for calling in and listening in, and God bless you, and go take care of your horses.
Yeah, I'm going to go get some of these posts lined up here. I dug the holes yesterday, 30 holes with post hole digger.
Oh, my goodness.
Now I'm just putting all the posts in and getting them vertically straight. So God bless you. You have a great weekend.
All right. You too, Craig. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Bye.
I love our listeners.
Love the brethren.
Yep. So you have any thoughts so far, Mr. Anderson, in terms of what we're talking about here?
Well, unfortunately, I've been very, very distracted with trying to manage this platform that we're developing here. But, our state of affairs is just when you read the news or you listen to the news, it's like listening to Babylon Bee.
It is. It is. It's a great point.
It's so unbelievable to me. Painting Black Lives Matter in front of Trump Tower, disrespecting the President of the United States the way that they are publicly doing. That I don't know. I mean, I understand that you can have differences with the president, but that's always been in my lifetime a position of such great respect. And to disrespect the president, but it doesn't stop there, does it? It goes down to the NFL and the NASCAR, and now they want to paint it on the floor of the basketball players, and
Yep.
The American people as a whole do not seem to understand the roots of this
Fear.
movement.
Fear, resentment.
Well, fear, but they're openly Marxist to begin with. They're not hiding that. They post it on their website. They talk about it on their interviews. And Marx is, what happened to McCarthy? I mean, where is he when you need
him?
Do they not understand what communism is? And it's totally opposite of America. And now they're desecrating statues, even the flag, and the national anthem. I read somewhere, this isn't my own idea, but my thought was, when they start to play the national anthem at a ball game, if we ever get to that point again, and they take a knee, somebody stops playing the music and over the intercom say, okay, now that we're all on our knees, let's all pray. Let's all pray. So you turn from that one thing and you turn to what we really need is God. That's what we really need. We really do need to be on our knees. We really need to be in pleading, begging mercy before our Father in heaven as a nation, not just a few of us who call ourselves believers.
Amen.
It's even really hard to know what Christian, what do they mean by that?
I'm in the process of reading an article by Harriet Connor, and Harriet Connor's a mother, wife of a Bible teacher from Sydney, Australia, and she writes about how the Bible's ancient wisdom makes sense in modern life and parenthood.
Oh, it really does.
Yep.
It really does.
It's again, we're back to the greatest American hero, the guy that got the cape and could fly around, but all he's doing is running into. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. That's very descriptive. Where we're running into buildings, we're running into each other. We're going here and there and everywhere and flying all the way out there and then coming back, and it's just insane because we have purposely not lost, but we just when I try, and Mrs. BJ will love this, when I get something that needs to be put together, the first thing I do is get rid of the instruction manual. Okay, that's the very first thing I do.
What's this piece of paper in my way?
And then, 6 or 7 hours later, I'm still going, gosh, what did I do wrong here?
What's this part for?
You didn't use the instruction manual. I remember putting together a ping pong table one time, and it worked fine, but there's all these bolts and things that are left over, and I'm going, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do with these? I'll use them for other things around the house, right? It's just incredible. And what Carrie's showing us is a biblical model of the family church.
The instruction book.
Yeah. The families show the church a model of relationships. How can you associate with the Bible if you don't know what a family is, a father is, to be a child, to be a brother or a sister? How do you know that? And it has strong feelings attached to it. Again, that's part of that app that we're giving. Self-contained. The New Testament describes the church as the household of God, 1 Timothy 3:15. That is, our spiritual relationships are of God, ready to embrace those members of the church who come alone. The church does not usually replace the family key. It is true that Jesus relativized the concept. I think I read that earlier. So, 3 had printing problems this morning.
You're finding your place. We've had all kinds of problems this morning.
Yep. We didn't pray before the show, so you get what you pray for, huh?
Well, you did. Yeah. You're right. We missed that.
The New Testament
No wonder where the confusion came from.
describes the church as a household of God. That is, our spiritual relationships are modeled on biological ones. Getting down to the specifics, Paul exhorts Timothy, do not rebuke an older man harshly, but exhort him as if he were your father. Oh, Lord, do the children in America need to hear that? Teach younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity. In order for the church to function well, it needs to know and see what the different kinds of familiar relationships entail. In the article Church as Family, Vernon Prothus observes, Timothy is not exhorted to treat each person in a manner mechanically identical with each other person, but to take into account the full range of personal factors that go into an intimate family relationship. When natural families sit and relate together in view of the church, it gives the church a model of relationships to follow. Beautiful. When the natural families sit and relate together in view of the church, it gives the church a model of relationship to follow. We talk about fathers. You can tell your children not to smoke, drink, or carouse, but if you smoke, drink, and carouse, guess what they're going to do because of your example? This is a positive example. The family in the church. A lot of homeschoolers and families. A lot of homeschooling families and churches.
Churches should have more families schooling.
She talks about Kaith, which she talked about earlier, the author does. When I witnessed Kaith's care and support for her elderly grandfather, it shows me how I could practically care for the same elderly members of our church. When I see how Ern and Faye look after one another during the week, it shows me how I could better support my spiritual brothers and sisters. When I see how Margaret faithfully disciplines her granddaughter in faith and service, it shows me how I could do the same for the other teenagers in the church. This is good stuff, folks. Our family relationships aren't just a model for others, but a school for us. In her book, Love Thy Body, Nancy Piercy explains, our experience of familiar love is meant to school us in the sacrificial love that binds us to one another in the family of God. The bonds of biology train us to extend love beyond biology. By the way, this is on our Natural Family Foundation Facebook page, this whole article.
Facebook page or website?
Facebook page. We don't have it on the website, do we? I just put it on the Facebook page this morning.
Oh, okay. No, we don't.
Come on, I have enough trouble as it is, Mr. Anderson. Back off.
I told you it's been a rough morning.
Similarly, Paul saw family life as training and proving ground for ministry. He asked, if anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church?
Amen.
Boy, this stuff is so meaty. I mean, the biblical quotes and the relationships he's drawing to the family. Outstanding. Outstanding. Did we bring somebody in here? I don't know. Well, yeah, we do have a friend in here. Biker Bill's in. Bill's in.
Is he ready to rant?
Families extend beyond nuclear. Let us take a quick break and then we'll get with Biker Bill. B.J. Edwards along Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Last call with B.J. Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Are
you there?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, live from Detroit, Michigan, or thereabouts, we have Biker Bill on the phone with us.
Hey,
Go ahead, brother.
how is every little thing?
Every little thing is misconstrued.
It's all over the studio. Every little thing is all over the studio, and we just can't piece it together, Biker.
Yeah.
Appreciate you listening. What's on your mind, brother?
Oh, what's on my mind? What is on my mind?
That is a dangerous question.
Well, I compiled the list. But,
Do we have enough time in the show left?
these unprecedented times that we're living in is really, really kind of sifting out who is and who ain't a Christian.
That it's doing.
Because if we can't, I mean, I was ready, I was guilty of murder and murder in the last little while. I am so upset at the American people and what I thought they were. And what they apparently are not anymore. And
don't have that rugged individualism, do we?
Oh, apparently that ship has sailed. I don't really pretend to understand it, other than God does say He will send strong delusion, and if this is not strong delusion, then I don't know what it is. But I don't even know anymore if the country can be saved. I mean, everybody's got all their marbles in this Trump. You know, we got a real-elect Trump. Well, if Obama had raised the national debt to the place it is now, we would be screaming as loud as we could possibly. We'd be hoarse. We'd have done lost our voice. And these PPP loans, they are just stealing every bit of money they can get their hands on before it's all gone. Well, it's all gone now, but they're still stealing it. And this open season on white people, you just take the word white and exchange it for black in any of the narratives going on today, and it would be not only a national disgrace, it would be unprecedented in racism. And it's okay to be racist against white people, I guess. I don't know, I guess. Apparently.
Biker Bill, some of the things that I'm seeing is that we're not really that smart, and God, and I think of my own life. God had to put a little pain in my life to make things obvious to me that I should have seen in the first place, and I see God doing that to our nation, that He loves us enough to discipline us, and to take away some of our stuff, so we'll appreciate what we have left and get us closer to Him. I often talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we're in the self-actualization, the atomization stage. It's all about me, 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 me. It's got to be good for me, or I'm not interested. And God is bringing that down to a more basic level, where pretty soon we're going to be worried about our food, our shelter, and water. And I hope He doesn't have to get us down to that point. But what you're seeing, I believe, and what everybody else is seeing, is that process taking place. That He's bringing us down to, you better be able to fish and farm. and even those people that have those skills, if they're not where he needs them to be, he can make it difficult for them as well. So I see God simplifying things for us. And he's really showing us, he's unmasking, if you will, excuse the pun, but he's unmasking individual Americans and showing us what we're really about, whether they be in government, or whether they be in your own family, or whether they be in your church. It's becoming quite obvious what the difference between right and wrong is. And you say,
light and darkness.
yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, well, the line's getting more clear.
It very much is.
And you should be grateful.
And
Go ahead.
I should be grateful. Yes, I should be grateful.
No, really, that you see. Look, Bill, you can see the storm clouds. Think about those idiots out there that can't see the storm clouds, that don't know any better. At least, look, it's frustrating.
They are the clouds.
Yeah, that too. It's frustrating to see what's happening. But can you imagine you being, and I'll talk about myself, I used to be blind, deaf, dumb, and blind. And now I can see the storm clouds. I can see what's happening. It's difficult to relate to your fellow man. I mean, that's difficult, but at least you know, Bill. At least you know, and that, sir, is a blessing.
Is it a blessing or is it a curse?
It's a blessing. Would you rather not have it?
No, I'd rather know, I guess. I mean, I can't see how, I honestly can't see. I have friends that are, put this in quotes, good people, but man, they are so out of touch with what is actually going on that it is mind-boggling to me. I don't even know how to talk to them.
Well, you're going to have to talk with actions, I guess, for starters, in whatever manner you can. Sometimes just looking at them, Bill, in disbelief in terms of what they're saying, that look of, are you serious? I mean, really, are you serious? Do you seriously believe that?
Like, yeah, but they don't. It doesn't. It doesn't even faze them. They either laugh at me
today it doesn't, Bill. Today it doesn't. But tomorrow, when the feces hits the oscillator, then they'll remember that look.
Yeah.
They'll remember that.
Some of these people I worked with, and I've been saying this for 20 years, warning about this very hour, and I have done a pretty good job looking back on predicting what we're going to be if we don't do this or that or whatever that I had, the subject at hand was. And here we are. And you would think if they could think back on those conversations I've had with so many people that they would say, maybe he's on to something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not on something anymore, but onto it.
I'm sorry?
I said, you're not on something, you're onto it.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Bill, you're fine. You're fine. You're in the right situation. We have the rocket up the fanny, and we want this to happen now. But God's not ready for it. The world's not ready for it, and mankind isn't ready for it. So we have to keep the rocket, keep it in neutral, because the quicker than you know, you're going to need to hit the full throttle on it. But just take information, take notes, and keep the faith, because I got a strange feeling that quite soon, at the rate things are gone, you're going to recognize what kind of effect you have had on people. I'm already seeing it in minimal amounts, but I'm already seeing it in my own life. Those people that you've been praying for, they're starting to see the light. And that's I just want to encourage you with that.
Those closest to us are
I
responding.
know. God has miraculously, and it is not I don't put that lightly. It's a miraculous thing. He has supplied me with a car, and that was impossible. It couldn't happen. I'm on a fixed income that there's no way I could have got a car. And it's a nice car, and I'm mobile now, so I'm out doing more things and trying to meet with more people. I'm trying to get this thing off the ground. I would like to start enough. I don't know if you've seen any of the messages I've sent you, but I'm trying to get words to go with the acronym enough, as in I've had enough before, if possible, before the killing starts. I mean, that ship's already sailed. I guess the killing has already started. They've killed quite a few people already. But I'm telling you, there's people out there in the neighborhoods and here and there, and they're just... We had a Black Lives Matter protest just a few blocks from my house. I sat there with a SKS and a 38 all night long waiting, because I figured they'd come in the neighborhoods. And I don't want to kill nobody. I would be, I just don't, I pray God it doesn't come to that.
I as well,
it doesn't have
to. It is concerning how close it's come to the door, isn't it?
It is. It's very scary.
And that's what's opening up the eyes of a lot of people that we have talked to and didn't, and they have been in disbelief, and now it's at the door, and now they're like they're going to be coming to you, Brother Bill, and asking, they're going to be looking for answers, and the thing to do is be prepared to facilitate. Say, look, this is what we got to do. Have some answers. Be prepared yourself, and have your feet firm on the ground, on the rock, in your faith, knowing that you do have answers. And
Bill, we're going to have to leave it on that note because we've run to the end of the hour, and no, we're not going to go into 3 hours. I know. And I've got you muted, so I can't hear a word you're saying. And I'm probably glad that he can't. Hey, I want to thank all of you for listening today. We talked about the church and families. The church should be a place where the alien and stranger are welcomed and those who lack families. But for it to operate as a site welcome, it needs to place where there is a deep familial community structure, and that requires natural families. Thanks for listening to us today. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Thanks for the real questions, Biker Bill.
Love the honesty.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
Did you leave him on the phone?
Yeah.
Is he still there?
Yep. Are we off air?
Well, almost.